Hey there everyone, this is Peter Sco from Music is a Journey. This video here today is just a kind of little catch-up video. I've done a couple of videos this year so far about lots of new CDs coming in, and they're basically all here now, so I'm going to show you just the last ones that came in. As well, kind of a little bit of an update on some things, and then a few stories that I really wanted to share earlier this year just for fun, which I'm going to anyway, so please do stick around if you feel like it. First of all, the last of the CDs coming in through the door. As I said previously, I kind of went on this big binge because I had a little extra money in on my tax return that I thought I could spend on myself, maybe. Mommy sent money for Christmas for the family. So I thought, yeah, hey, things are looking pretty good. I also had some extra work. So yeah, I thought, hey, let's, and then I kind of went nuts. But anyway, a lot of it's just content for upcoming videos. So this first one here, this is Nazareth's Big Dogs album. I think it goes back to 2011. I was a big Nazareth fan in my 10th grade of junior high school. I had all of the 16 albums on cassette at the time, right from the debut going up to cinema. And after that, I just stopped buying Nazareth albums. I felt cinema was better than the last two albums, the last three albums before that, but not like really super good. And I think just my musical taste started changing in my high school years, so I kind of fell out. But anyway, I was watching a ranking the albums of Nazareth on the Sea of Tranquility channel a while back now, and Pete Pardo had a lot of good things to say about this album. So I'm kind of curious. I thought, okay, let's give it a listen to see what a recent good Nazareth album sounds like. Of course, Manny Charlton, right? Charlton, Manny Charlton, the guitarist, founding guitarist, one of the founding members anyway. He was not on this album. He left back in around 1990 after the Snakes and Ladders album. So there's another fellow in here playing guitar. Daryl Sweet, the drummer, of course, passed away, so it's his son, I think it's Lee Sweet, playing drums, but still Pete Agnew on bass and Dan McCafferty on vocals. Now, of course, just last year, both Dan McCafferty and Manny Charlton passed away. Anyway, sad to hear that. I mean, it's been happening a lot in the last few years, but there go two more of the old classic boys. Off to rock and roll heaven, I guess. But anyway, Big Dogs, picked it up. Listen to it. I'm going to be commenting. I'm making a video later on. I don't know if it's going to be like this month or just, in the coming months. But it's going to be a video about newer albums by old classic bands. Because I have a lot I want to say about that. So this is one of the albums that came in. This is actually one of the older ones because it's 2011. Most of the ones I want to talk about will be a little bit more recent. Another one here, this is UFO Obsession. I am not like a huge UFO fan. I have 3 or 4 albums I had before this one here anyway, and each of them have a couple of songs that I think are really great, 2 or 3 more that I think are quite good, and then the rest of the albums are kind of not so exciting for me. But I heard that this is such a great album, and I wanted to order it through Amazon, and it was just not available. Even in the marketplace, it was going to cost a lot of money to get a hold of it. So I finally did some snooping around just right here on Yahoo Auction in Japan, and managed to find a copy. Like, lots of people were selling it for basically, I think it was just around 2,000 yen or a bit less. There were different versions available. I just wanted to buy a version. I didn't need to get like the super high quality CD version. And I got it, and I have to say that it's another UFO album. I can't see that this is, a brilliant, masterful piece of work like maybe fans of UFO think. But yeah, there are some good songs on here too. I think actually the one I like best still is Force It. And then No Heavy Pettin'. But anyway, still pretty good though. Then, let's see here, one album I mentioned earlier in the year when I did my albums of 1973, an album I said I used to have on cassette but didn't have on CD, Montrose, the debut album, released in 1973. I just wanted to order it, and I thought it's a classic album. It's, one of the like big hard rock albums of the 70s. Should be easy to get, right? Checked it on Amazon, and suddenly it's like nobody seems to have an available copy except there were 2 left And I just thought, okay, I'm getting one now. And I ordered it, and then it came in through the door, and I saw, oh, shoot, it's a Rock Candy reissue. I didn't pay attention to that. You know, and I did a video about Rock Candy reissues last year and how it's kind of hit and miss. Like, some of them sound really good, and then some of them, you know, they've been clipped. There's a little bit of static, or it is, yeah. But anyway, I'm happy to report that this one here sounds fine. No complaints about that one here. And again, it has a little booklet inside with photos. I think there's this one really, you can't see it now, one really cool photo of Sammy Hagar, you know, leaping into the air. Just made me think, you know, the energy that rock musicians had back then. You see like pictures like Pete Townsend, for example, of The Who, like he's just flying up in the air. So I think like, wow, rock musicians there from like the late 60s and into the 70s. And I gotta say, even in the 1980s, because I saw Aerosmith during the Permanent Vacation tour, and Steve Tyler was like leaping off the speakers, landing on the stage, doing the splits, doing back flips over the mic stand and so on. And at that time he was like 39. So yeah, really super high energy rock music, and yeah, what a classic album this is. So yeah, it sounds fine. It's good. It's the Rock Candy reissue, and it sounds fine. So that's cool. Phew, glad about that. I'd hate to get this and find it was all like scratchy and staticky. All right, one of the albums I checked out at the end of last year that I thought maybe I should get, Spirit World, Death Western. I've listened to it once. Honestly, the reviews that I read about this were like, praise this so much. And the person I saw was on Banger TV's YouTube channel. I think it was Bradley Zordrager. He was saying like this was his pick for best metal album of 2022. I listened to it and I thought, wow, it sounds just like basically guys with extra gruff vocals revisiting a lot of like 80s thrash, but less exciting. I thought that was my initial reaction listening to this one time. The reason why I got it was because it has some of these kind of like Ennio Morricone Western style music bits here and there, but much less than I thought. I think it's only on like 2, possibly 3 tracks. So I'm going to have to listen to this a little bit more and try to find out what all the excitement is about. Because, yeah, for me it's like, again, it's like based on 80s thrash, but not as exciting as 80s thrash was. So I don't know. Give it another listen. I love the album artwork. I forget who it is now, but the main guy behind the band here, he actually writes all these like kind of Western horror stories as kind of like literature to go, that which is then, you know, inspires the lyrics of the song. So the concept is awesome. I think that's really cool. I love the cover artwork, but I'm going to have to find out where all the excitement really is on that album. Okay, then, of course, I've been talking about Blue Oyster Cult this year, last time in February, and also about some of these reissues I picked up with the 24K digital remastering, and they sound awesome. 2 Blue Oyster Cult albums I didn't have. One of them is this Imaginos, which I've now taken care of that. The other is The Curse of the Cracked Mirror, which I haven't gotten yet. But funny thing is, as far as I know, I never heard this album. I never had it on cassette. I never had it on CD before. I didn't have any idea what this music was like. But somebody said that it is a really good rock album. If you're into that, you know, you want to hear it. It's quite a mess behind this because actually Blue Oyster Cult had kind of, I don't know what they were doing, but you know, almost everyone had left. There were only 2 members left of the original lineup. And then I think it was Albert Bouchard, the drummer, who after he left, he was the first member to leave, he started working on this Imaginos concept that the Sandy Pearlman had come up with, and he was going to make an album based on that story, which of course was behind a lot of the Blue Oyster Cult lyrics back in the day. But the label said, we're not going to put it out as an Alan Bouchard album. It has to be a Blue Oyster Cult album. So the 2 remaining members, Buck Dharma and Eric Bloom, were called back. Alan Lanier also came back, and they redid a lot of the tracks to make it into a Blue Oyster Cult album. So yeah, as far as I knew, I'd never heard this before, and then I got it and I listened to it, and there was one track, I forget which one it is, but I thought, I know this song. Yeah, I know it. I remember that part. And then there's another track on here, or what's it called now? I think it's The Siege, and Investiture of Baron von Frankenstein's Castle at Wyceria. I think it's that one. A long title. But yeah, it has this part like your master is a monster, and then this whole like dramatic part near the end with world without end. I know that song. I've heard it not only once, I've heard it probably at least a couple of times, and I don't know when or where I ever heard it, but I know it. So that was really weird. But yeah, anyway, it is a pretty good album. The only disappointment was the Astronomy, which is actually from the third album, the Secret Treaties album, which is a really cool song. It's just not as good on this one here. But otherwise, cool. Yeah. This one, along with Club Ninja, was reissued, I think, back in 2009, 2011, around then. And so, yeah, I was glad to get Club Ninja because I actually like most of it, even though it's the lowest rated album. And yeah, this one here is pretty cool to get too. So glad now I have only one more Blue Oyster Cult album to get. Then, content, my friends, for an upcoming video. I'm not going to tell you what it's all about, but it's going to include this album here, AC/DC, The Razor's Edge. I was a big AC/DC fan. It was my first band that I really got into back when I was, well, like 11 years old. Had 3 or 4 cassettes, 5 cassettes? Had 5 cassettes back in the day. I got up to Flick of the Switch, so that would have been 6 cassettes anyway. And then later on, yeah, Fly on the Wall came out, and I picked it up. It was like, it's not as exciting. And then Blow Up Your Video came out, and okay, I think I'm kind of done with AC/DC. I've got the older stuff, you know, basically from the international debut, High Voltage, up to For Those About to Rock, great albums. Flick of the Switch was, had some good songs. And after that, I don't need to get any more AC/DC albums. But I heard a lot of good things about this. I heard Fly on the Wall was kind of a disappointment. Production was not so good, not so many memorable songs. Blow Up Your Video was even more disappointing. I watched 2 or 3 videos ranking the albums of AC/DC. This one here got a lot of praise, so I thought, all right, let's pick it up, let's check it out. And it's part of a theme for an upcoming video, so more to say about that later on. And also related to that, also is this one here, Crocus the Blitz. I'm not a tremendous Crocus fan, but I like the Headhunter album, and there are a couple more albums I've been thinking I should get. I remember either I had this or my best friend had this on cassette in the 80s. So I thought, let's pick it up. It's part of the theme for an upcoming video. And things to say about this, just from today's modern metal standards, this is probably more of a hard rock album, but listening to it and thinking about it from the perspective of, what is it, 1985? This is still a metal album as metal was in 1985. If I compare this to, say, something like Loverboy or Bryan Adams or Honeymoon Suite, they are more rock with a bit of a hard rock edge to it. AC/DC is more hard rock. This is going a little bit more away from the hard rock and more into the metal. It's not Judas Priest, it's not Accept, it's not Iron Maiden, but it is more closer to that metal sound than, say, like AC/DC or, as I said, like Loverboy and those types. So, yeah, I actually think it's pretty cool. It's nice to hear. It kind of brings back memories of those days back in 84, 85. All right, Pattern Seeking Animals was one of those bands. I said one of the 12 albums I wanted to get that were mentioned by a few videos I checked out at the end of the year. People said, like, this is one of the best prog albums of 2022, so I got it. I've listened to it once through, and one track I picked out for a mixed playlist. So far, pretty cool album. I like what I'm hearing. I'm going to have to give it a little more attention, but probably that's not going to be a topic of an upcoming video. This I have on vinyl. I haven't had access to a record player since about 1990. I think it was about 90, 91. So I haven't listened to it on vinyl since then. I have a couple of Grand Funk compilations, which includes my favorite tracks off of here, but I always thought I should get this album on CD, and finally it was just like, just get it. Just bloody well get it and get that part over and done with. And my familiarity with Grand Funk Railroad is their debut album, On Time, About Time, On Time, On Time. This one here, the Red Album, also known as Grand Funk. The 4th album, Pluribus Funk, I think it is, which I picked up maybe 2 years ago. And then whatever I had on the compilation album, which includes all their hits throughout the 70s. I really like the older stuff where it was more intense, more a little bit more on the early metal side. You know, they were one of the first bands to actually be called heavy metal. Yeah, I talked about that in a previous video as well. There's an article in a magazine I have where I was reading about, you know, how they were, anyway, playing heavy metal music as it was known back in 69, 70, 71. Of course, the term was only just in its infancy at that time, like 1970 or whatever. But anyway, yeah. This album, still killer one. Inside Looking Out, there's a video of them performing it live that you can watch on YouTube, 1969. They bloody well kill it, man. They've got so much energy, especially Mark Farner, you know, and his vocals and just the way he's grooving and boogieing to this, you know. It's kind of a blues-based song, but they just really play it so well. Yeah, awesome. So anyway, got this album. Cool. That's settled, over and done with. And then another album I really wanted to get on CD, and again, it's one of those ones, gotta pay like 50, 60 bucks to get a hold of it. There were some reissues of this band's early albums. I bought the third album, and it would just sucked. Like the remastering was just blasted through the roof. It's nothing but like overly distorted. Terrible. So I thought, no, even if I can get a remastered copy of that, I do not want it to be like their third album. So if I can, I want to get an original CD copy of Nuclear Assault's second album, Survive, which I had on cassette back in the day. Got it, found it on Yahoo auction again for, again, under 2,000 yen, which is really good. And yeah, this is like the 1989 or something like that, made in France combat label or whatever. The only thing about it is that CDs at that time, they did not have a lot of volume on them. So like you really got to turn up the volume to feel the kick in the music, which is the one thing I don't like. You know, if you've got modern day albums, modern day produced albums, and you've got like reissues that have been remastered with a little bit more oomph to them, and you're playing those on your, you know, earphones, and then this comes on, it's like, we got to push up the volume like 2 or 3 notches more in order to feel the music to the same level. So that's the only one disappointment about this. But other than that, I'm really glad to get this. There were 2 or 3 songs on here that I just loved, like Brainwashed, Great Depression. Their cover of Led Zeppelin's Good Times, Bad Times is pretty cool. I always loved, I forget his name now, but the vocals on here, the vocals just have an easily distinguishable sound to them that you know that's the vocalist of Nuclear Assault. So yeah, very glad to get a hold of that one. Actually got chills listening to one of the riffs in one of the songs. I was like, oh man, I haven't heard that in so long. I'm really glad to hear that. So there's that then. You see behind me here the story of Anvil. This is the reissue of the movie. You know, I was onto my little Anvil kick at the end of the year last year, and this has some sort of like special features. It is the newly remastered in 2022. So I've had it now for about 2 weeks and still in the plastic. Haven't had a chance to watch it yet. Regarding Anvil, okay, this is March 4th. I'm recording this video March 4th. Yesterday, March 3rd, Anvil were performing in Tokyo, and I had every intention to go. Actually, I normally work Friday evenings, but I told my manager about this back in November, and she said, oh, plenty of time to change your schedule. So, changed the schedule, left it open for me. I asked a friend, he was kind of interested in going, and then he changed his mind. I thought, hell with it, I'm going anyway. You know what happened? The damn electric company bumped up the cost of electricity. A fair chunk. When I saw what I had to pay in January for mid-November to mid-December, I was like, holy cow, we're paying like almost $100 worth more than usual. Crap. I thought, okay, well, the next bill is going to be from mid-December to mid-January. What's that going to look like? Because we're using the heaters even more. It was during our, you know, like a 9-10 day holiday period where everybody was home. We were going to bed late and sometimes really super freaking late. That bill was horrendous. It was so bad I had to take money out of our savings account just to pay for the electricity bill, and I'm probably going to have to do that again next month. So, here are more CDs coming in through the door, which I was ordering back at the end of December, or, still in January and a little bit in February. And it's like, I really shouldn't order more, but I've got some points I can use to pay for these ones with points, and it's only $1,000 if I, buy some discounted food for the next few days for my lunch. I can, pay it back. But anyway, so yeah, that's my big electric shock thing. The electricity bill is astronomical. I don't know what we're going to do in the next couple of months here. So yeah, I didn't go to see Anvil. I thought it's best that I don't, because it's 8,000 yen to go. It's going to cost me close to 4,000 yen for a t-shirt plus transportation. Got to buy a drink to go there. Probably going to need something anyway. So yeah, I thought, okay, I'm not going to the show, which is too bad because I haven't been to a concert since 2019. But anyway, so yeah, that's basically the end of anything that's important. But if you want to watch, I want to share just a few really funny coincidence stories that happened around the end of last year, which I really wanted to say earlier on. So yeah, you can sign out now if you want, and thank you for watching, or listen to these stories. It's really kind of coincidental. One, I was thinking about Canadian female singers of the 70s. Who were the great female singers of the 70s? Of course, there's Joni Mitchell, there's Buffy St. Marie, who actually was, I think, born in Canada, but then spent most of her life outside of Canada, whatever. And then I remembered, there was Anne Murray. And I thought, yeah, my parents had an Anne Murray cassette when I was a kid, and I remember her big song was Snowbird. And I thought, man, I haven't heard Snowbird for ages. And at the time I was thinking this, I was visiting the home center and picking up some supplies. And I went to the car and put everything in the car, and I thought, nah, I really want to go to the washroom before I head off to the supermarket next. So I went back into the home center to use the restroom there. And when I came out, the Muzak, whatever that was playing in the store, was playing the tune of Snowbird. I was okay. I haven't heard this song in how many decades, and now the day that I think about it, within 10 minutes at least the melody starts playing above my head. So that was really weird. Then another funny thing was, I was walking to the train station, and I was thinking about the band Virgin Steel, and I remember in an interview they said that on their debut they put their phone number, and they said that was a really great way to get chicks, because girls would look at the album, see the phone number, call, and then come on by and, meet the band. And I was just thinking about this meet the band, M-E-E-T, and I thought it's kind of funny because, what they did when they met the band, actually, you could think about meet as M-E-A-T. And once I started thinking about that, it just kept repeating in my head, meet the band, meet the band. And I actually could see in front of my eyes these big white letters spelling out M-E-A-T in all capitals. And I crossed over this street and started going down the sidewalk, and I was walking past this small, izakaya type place, and this very small delivery van had pulled up. And the guy opened the side door of the van and took out 3 big bags of steaks. Clear plastic bags with steaks inside, wrapped in clear plastic bags. And there I was coming down the street, coming down the sidewalk, just thinking, meat. And then this guy pulls out these 3 big bags of meat. It's like, what are the chances of that happening? Weird. I've never seen that before. All the times I walk down there, I've never seen a delivery guy come up and pull out bags of steaks. So it was really a coincidence. And then the one other funny coincidence was, later that day, I was depositing money into the savings account, the very savings account I had to raid later on to pay the electric bill. And I was putting money in, and I had a certain amount I wanted to put in, and just as I dropped the bills into the little slot there to put when you're depositing money in the ATM, the door closed to accept the money, and I thought, you know what? Every year I never take out enough money for the holidays. I always end up running out and having to use the credit card because I don't want to go to the ATM during the holidays and pay service charges to take money out. Anyway. And I was just thinking I should have kept an extra 10,000 yen note. And just then the door of the machine opened up. The machine rejected one of my bills. Just as I thought I should have kept the 10,000 yen note, the door opened, there was a 10,000 yen note. It was fine, it wasn't counterfeit, just the machine rejected it. So it was like, oh, well, thank you. Thanks for that. Okay, enough of this. So, what I've got coming up, I actually already recorded it and I'm starting to work on it. I'm doing a Black Sabbath song quiz video. I've never done a video like that before, but I had an idea and I thought it could be fun. So that's coming out probably in a day or two. And as I've said, it's now March, so I think Rush released their debut album in March back in 1974, if I got that correct. So I'm going to be working on a first 10 albums of Rush video, as I've now said a couple of times. And also, as I've said, I'm also thinking to do a video about, old bands and their newer releases. So I've got about a dozen albums lined up for that. As well, a couple of other ideas, which, I'm going to just be throwing out videos as they come along. So hopefully there's be something for everybody. Okay. Anyway, that's it for this one here. Thank you all for watching as usual. Always appreciated. I hope there was something interesting or at least amusing. And yeah, catch you in that Black Sabbath song quiz video coming out soon. All right, everybody. Have a good weekend. Take care.